Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
This is a record button.
No, not that button, never that button.
Okay, we've got that recorded now.
Yay! And then that's how I'll try and start.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's do high school.
What about it?
Well, okay, so one of the things that I know that you had talked about was theater. So I think high school in particular, well, there's two things that I know we need to follow up on. The first one is you had said in the last podcast, and I noticed it in particular when editing, that you didn't want to go into why you stopped basketball, or that you go into that.
Oh, yeah.
Time. And then I think talking a bit about, how you got into acting and your experience doing that you talked about that some last time, but, I believe you started that in high school.
Well, actually, the first show I did was in 8th grade. I did the White Gypsy when I was in 8th grade, which was a musical. Yeah.
Well, tell me. Let's start with that then. Why don't you tell me about that, and then what?
I don't remember a lot about it. I met my friend John McConnell doing that, who was a friend all through high school.
He's the one that was killed in Vietnam, wasn't he?
I don't know if he was killed in Vietnam or during the AIDS epidemic or what, but by the time I got my 40 or 20-year class reunion book, both he and my friend Gary Tuning were both dead, so...
Why don't you tell me about both of them then?
Well, they were just friends in the theater department. They didn't like each other because each one thought the other one was gay.
Were they?
I don't know. It's possible they were, but I don't have anything. By the time I graduated high school, they certainly had not come out or admitted to themselves they were gay, so they might not have been. I mean, I have no way of knowing because all the 20-year reunion book said was deceased in big black letters next to their names, along with an awful...
It doesn't have anything about how they died, just that they died?
Yep, that's almost all of my friends from high school had that, so...
Note to self when actually compiling the book version of this, all of this needs to be researched, because that...
Yeah, Joe Cockrell, I mean, all of my friends in the theater department, all of my male friends, most of my friends from the student body leadership, a lot of them were dead. I mean...
you were involved in student body leadership?
Well, I was involved in student government.
Really?
I never had other than a homeroom representative type position. I just hung out in the office with the rest of the... We were a weird class. When your dad and I were dating and married, your dad was kind of marveling at how things were when I was in high school, because they were apparently completely different when he was in high school. When he was in high school, the student body president was always, a jock and, all that kind of thing. And we were actually, our class actually treated the whole thing very seriously. We were all interested.
I wonder if that's part of being from Virginia, and how many of these kids were like government, the children of government employees or politicians?
I don't know, but we were all very serious about it, and we were serious about politics. All very interested in politics. I mean, regular politics, not just high school politics. Your uncle Donald was actually the student body president the year behind me. I think he was a junior when I was a senior.
So you actually did go to the same high school as Richmond.
Yeah, well, yeah, they moved around. They were in Ohio for a while. Your father actually was probably a crossing guard when I was in kindergarten, and his family lived... Yeah, and they lived in the same apartment complex that we did. I walked by
Really? They
his
didn't have a house?
apartment to.
That's interesting.
At that time, they didn't have a house. Later, they bought this house in Ohio, where your grandfather Artell used the boys as slave labor to put in the. It didn't have plumbing. This house in Ohio didn't have plumbing.
So
And
you were
he used them to put in the.
apartment complex, and then they moved to Ohio. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's at some point they moved to Ohio. I don't know exactly when, and then they moved back. And when they moved back, they were well enough off. Artell had a good enough job that they lived in a house. So I don't think they lived particularly close to us at that point, but they were still in Falls Church.
So when did you meet the first member of the Rich family or the U.S. family member?
The first member of the Ricks family, I think, was Aunt Marie, because I was friends with Kathy Bowman, who was involved in choir and all aspects of choir in the music department, and friends with band people.
And who is Kathy Bowman?
I don't remember how I met her, but she's actually the one who got me involved in the Mormon Church too. So I think I was like a junior. And yeah, Kathy was the one who I talk about, who liked to spend summers out in the yard. I guess I met her when I was a sophomore. And I don't remember how I met her, but she would spend all summer out in her backyard combing lemon juice through her hair and putting baby oil on her. She probably died of skin cancer because she was so addicted to tanning. And I'd go over to hang out with her, and I couldn't stand it. I was too hyperactive for that. How anybody could lie in the backyard for hours. And I was always jumping up to get water, or jumping up to turn the radio up or down or change the station or one thing or another. I couldn't stand that. That drove me crazy.
That sounds
she
like
actually
a great scene for a play. I'm sorry, just the idea of her sitting there chanting, you going, I'm going to turn the radio up. I'm going to turn the radio down. I'd like some water.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it was like, because I was just too hyperactive for that. And gosh, yeah, there's stories around her too that I actually joined senior life saving, which is ridiculous because I hated pools, I hated swimming. I don't know why in God's name I decided I was going to be a lifeguard.
Boys?
But I don't think so, no. But it was probably my friend John McConnell, because he took the class, and another friend, I don't remember which one, took the same. No, John was a friend. He wasn't a. No, it had nothing to do with boys, although I was very interested in boys at the time. And yeah, Kathy, we walked to the pool for a bit. Oh God, that was a horrible nightmare, that whole thing. Anyway, yeah, Kathy had a lot of boyfriends. She was very attractive to the boys, and she got involved. Well, let me start with the pool thing. I guess I met her through the theater department, doing musicals. She was probably involved in the musicals I was doing there. The first show I auditioned. Well, let me go back to basketball. Let me start out talking about basketball. I tried out for and got on the junior varsity basketball team, girls basketball team. And we had a really good team. And I can't remember my teacher's name, my coach's name, but I really, female coaches.
Barbara?
They were also PE teachers. Don't do that. And she was great. I loved her. And Miss Dowdy was the coach of the varsity team. And that year, let's see, I think I had Miss Dowdy for PE that year. Was it that? No, it was the next year. It was the next year, because I had what was her name? I can't remember what her name was. Anyway, my freshman year, the JV coach, I did really well. I was an essential member of the team. And that's where my life was focused. Well, the next year, Miss Dowdy was my PE teacher, really, really weird. And we had a dance segment in PE, a modern dance segment, and we all had these little pieces that we had to do, and most of the girls did things like dress up like little kitty cats and do a little number to Kitten on the Keys or something like that. Well, I was really dramatic, and so a friend of mine in sophomore grade, and I can't remember her name, but she and I decided to do this really melodramatic piece. We decided to do, was it Slaughter on 10th Avenue? I can't remember the music we used. But I dressed up like a cowboy and she was a saloon girl, and we did this whole thing where I killed her at the end. I don't even remember all of it. But, it was just a theatrical piece. Well, Miss Downey was completely weirded out by it, and I think was convinced that we were gay. Although at the time that did not occur to me, because girls basketball team, the varsity girls basketball team, after being an important player on the JV team, and then suddenly, very athletic, and I was intellectual. If she was in denial. Apparently, she later got pregnant from a student. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, everything was crazy then. Everything was crazy. So, I don't know. I don't know what happened to her, and I really don't care, because she made my life in high school hell. So I don't care what she thought. Anyway, after that, she didn't put me on the team, so I volunteered to be, I forget what they called it, but basically, or I don't know what happened to those girls who were on our team that were so awesome. But our awesome JV team, something happened to him. Maybe it was Miss Dowdy. I don't know, but maybe she was racist on top of everything else, which wouldn't surprise me. She was a freak. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she was very, 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 very Southern. So so she, yeah. Anyway, but she was also just really weird. But anyway, here I am as the manager passing, balls to them so they can do layups and all kinds of other things. And when I realized that I was better than pretty much the entire team, I thought, this is bullshit. I'm not going to sit here and be a manager to these girls that I could run circles around. And because I had worked so hard at it. I worked so much harder than the other girls on that particular team were willing to work, and I knew I was better than they were. I could play circles around them. So anyway, I just decided to hell with it, and I auditioned for my English teacher, who was also the drama teacher and directed the plays at the school. I really liked her a lot, and they had auditions for Oklahoma. And so I auditioned for and got in Oklahoma, and I quit the team. So, screw the team. I don't care what happens to them. So I auditioned for and got into the chorus of Oklahoma, which was awesome because I made all my costumes in high school. I made a wonderful square dance outfit for Oklahoma, which I loved. And I had great fun doing it. Let's see, I think that's the year I met Kathy Bowman. And Kathy was very into music. I was really uncomfortable with singing. I always wanted to be a dancer when I was a kid. I wanted to do so many things. And my parents this is the thing about being a child that your parents didn't really plan on and really didn't want. They weren't willing to invest the energy in me, so if I had had parents who had been willing to invest the time in music lessons and dance lessons and singing lessons, who knows what would have happened. But as it was, anything I did, I learned on my own, and it's really hard to push yourself all the time for every little thing. I just didn't have the drive to do that for everything, and after basketball turned out to be such a dud, after all the energy I put into it, you know, it's really hard to keep pushing yourself, especially when you have a father who doesn't believe in praise. You know, if he ever tells you you're doing good, you're going to quit trying. You know, that he raved about me to my mother, but wouldn't tell me that he thought I was brilliant and, you know, could. Yeah, exactly. So what he did was turn me into somebody who gave up because nothing was ever good enough, and no matter how hard I tried, I was a failure. So, you know, I just gave up.
Shut up! Copyright 2017. Red Anvil Amalgamated LLC. For more of this and other worlds, visit redanvilcreative.com.
To fight the forces of evil!